Good evening, and welcome to the Heikadelic Show. We would like to take this moment to let you know that viewer and listener discretion is strongly advised. So sit back, have yourself a nice cool drink or hot drink, and enjoy the show. And welcome once again to the Heikadelic Show.
Hey,
Good evening. How's everybody?
excellent.
And it looks like tonight there was 3.
Wow.
Yeah. Sorry, folks. We had Derek on earlier, and he's having some connection issues. So hopefully he can get it sorted out and come back. But
Disappearing
if not,
Derek tonight.
that's
Yeah.
what we'll call him. He's the DD.
DD, disappearing Derek.
Wow,
Hi,
looks
Kathy.
like
I don't know
Kathy's
about you guys, but you know what I mean. Let's do this because I'm thirsty. Get it out of the way.
So it looks like Kathy's the first
All right.
one on tonight.
Yeah. Well done, Kathy.
Sandra, close second. Oh, Sandra's like 1 minute behind Kathy.
Okay.
And Kathy's saying hi, Sandra. Well, here, let me get these up on the screen
All right.
just so it's all official. Like,
Hi, Sandra. Hi, Kathy. You guys are awesome.
James Boone.
James. Yeah, what we should do is first 3 people on the show. Holy crap, Danny's here too. Wow.
Really?
Don't
Must
get
have got home from the restaurant early.
Danny who? Oh, Danny.
Danny,
Hey,
our Danny.
The Burger Man.
Yeah.
Dan,
In Germany, they would call him the Burgermeister.
Burgermeister. Yeah. That's like a Burgermeister is like a mayor, isn't it, in Germany?
That's the mayor, yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
The Burgermeister.
Attention at grammar school, you know.
Yeah, you watched the Christmas specials too, right? Remember Burgermeister Meisterburger?
Yeah.
He hated children.
Yeah.
And there's
better to be
Derek.
the Burgermeister than the Schwarzmeister, I guess.
Yeah, it's much better.
Disappearing Derek. Reappeared.
Derek. Oh my God.
It looks like it's on the space station, you know?
Yes, we're calling him the DD, Disappearing Derek.
We should leave his image like that.
Yeah.
Frozen in time.
That's right.
Poor Derek.
Yeah.
So everybody, welcome to another episode of the Heikadelic Show. We did it again. We made it through another week. It's funny, I talk to people and they're like, everyone's kind of down in the dumps. And I just tell everybody, I said, you know what? You wake up in the morning, you get up out of bed, it's a good day.
Yeah. It is. If you wake up, yeah.
We're all frozen. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, it looks like we might
Triple chin out there.
might not have Derek back tonight. Who knows? We'll see how it works out.
Right.
So, I guess in the vein of who are they? I heard
Uh-oh.
a friend of mine called me today. I haven't heard from him in months and months and months. But his opinion is that Elon is an alien. He feels that his pasty skin and his, I guess, the way he carries himself is almost like an exoskeleton.
It's funny. I've heard that before from other people.
Well,
they said, he looks like an alien.
His opinion is, and I love Elon. I don't care what anybody says, but he released about a week and a half ago, robot technology that he's going to mass produce, right? Like
Yes.
to be able to buy like a full blown robot for like 20 grand.
Mm-hmm.
The creepy thing about it though is they all look like if you ever watched iRobot with Will Smith, they kind of
Yes.
look like that, right?
Also, they don't like have skin features and that. They just have like a head shape, right?
Yeah, more of like a Terminator with
Yeah.
Terminator with the body kind of melted off.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
no, these are super cool. They're 20 grand. It was on the heels of like when I was in Vancouver, I tried a Tesla 3, I guess.
Yep.
Like the self-drive. It was amazing. But so that's kind of now on my bucket list, the Tesla 3 and one of his robots. That'd be really cool.
You want your own robot?
So
20 grand.
for 20 grand, what does this robot do? Like,
Well,
how would it be any aid to anybody?
Well, I don't.
Or is it just a toy?
Well, that's a good question. It has a lot of sort of canned robot-y features that you see now, like it pick up things and all of that. And I would imagine if it's anything like the Roomba, it's got its own little bit of AI in it, I suppose, and it can learn vacuuming paths around your house, right? But I would think it'd be awesome if it could sort of withstand the weight of a second person, so that it could almost be like a one-person assist for somebody who's disabled. But
it could definitely move people around in a wheelchair.
Well, it could. There
Right?
are a lot of possibilities, right? So I don't know. I didn't really follow up. I watched the video. They showed an upper torso, and then they showed one kind of walking, but the upper torso one that they just sort of rolled out is another, I guess, a sort of a larger version. So we'll see what happens with it. But
so the upper torso one, is it capable of moving around?
That one not on its own because it's not complete yet. But the other one that came out walked out on its own.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
But
I saw one. I saw one too. It's not made by Elon, but made by the Chinese.
Yeah.
And they like doing the girls, like the young girls. And this thing had long purple hair, and it was sitting in a chair, getting her hair done. And she's kind of looking around and chatting and stuff, and you look and you go, "Holy crap, that's just creepy."
Well, in Pickering, there's a little restaurant called Dragon Rolls, I guess, and it's a sushi place, and it's got a little robot that brings some of your food to your table, and
See, and that's what Danny just wrote. He said hospitals are using robots for talking to you and taking you to your room, dispensing medication and food.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you know what? Honestly, it's a good idea because a lot of people end up overdosing in hospitals because it's not dispensed properly. So I remember, say, I don't know, 7 to 10 years ago, it was really horrible. And so transferring medications, all of that stuff. Shortly afterwards, they started getting computer terminals with the drawers, the dispensing drawers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So got a lot of, you got to wonder how many patients died over the years because they were getting the wrong meds, right? Or overdosing on.
Well, it's funny you say that because when I had my injury, when I was in the hospital at the beginning, when I was like my first week, I needed a long-acting painkiller. It was 12 hours, every 12 hours, obviously. And then the short-acting one every 3 hours.
Yeah.
And it was like 7 and 7.
Right.
And I had a nurse that came in and like did the night shift. And she was a big lady. She was nice, but she was a big lady. She walked very slow.
Yeah.
And that's what she did. I could tell she didn't feel like walking around all night. And she'd give me all my meds for the entire night.
Yeah, that's
here you go. Don't take them all at once. This is this and this is this. Are you okay with that? And I'm like, I am, but.
And you can't really expect that of a patient to.
No.
Their own
right?
Dispensing, so.
And I could have woke up and been in a lot of pain and just
Yeah.
taking the wrong one, taking another 12-hour one. But you're right.
Absolutely.
Things are mishandled because people are lazy.
So Danny's saying it. These robots are to cut down operating costs, and yeah, I mean, in part, it's a lot of things. Like I think you mentioned last week, Heiko, about the self checkouts, right? All that
Yeah.
is it's almost like a readiness to turn it over completely to a robot technology, right?
Yeah.
So I think what'll happen is in those checkouts, you'll see, a robot there kind of policing everything to make sure nobody's getting, ripping things off, right? So,
Yep.
but yeah.
And
Well, you know what, Junior, I'm glad to see that, but I can tell you that like less than 10 years ago, it fucking sucked, and it really sucked bad at the University Health Network. Yeah, so it wasn't a good experience because they did delve out wrong medications and a lot of stuff around that. But glad to see your experiences.
well, Junior is lucky, and like I said, I'm not bad mouthing the hospital that I stayed at. I was there 16 days, and I can, honest to God, say that my stay there was pretty damn good. What I found was on the floor I was at the first little while, because I guess I was still critical care. Everybody was so freaking nice, helpful. Like, holy shit, it was pretty amazing.
But that's
And
because,
then,
Heiko, today versus not too long ago,
Mhm.
there are review capabilities for. So what I did at the time when I was experiencing all this bullshit, I took the whiteboard in the room and I drew a line in the center of it. And depending on, like, if you were on the left side of that line, you were probably not doing your job very well. And I had all the nurses' names and all of the healthcare team, like, kind of written down on there. On the right side, if you're on that side, you were doing a great job. So it was like all these kudos and everything. And I did it to display the fact that, like, everything from shift change, I found staff that were sleeping at the nurse desk and stuff like that. And people are shitting their beds in the middle of the night because they're ringing over. And these are, quote, world-class hospitals. And Toronto General was the worst for it, right? So anyway, it's gotten a lot better, but I did what a good citizen should do. I went to patient relations and I got them engaged. And that person, I have to say, was awesome, because we were back there about a year later, and same floor and everything. And they showed me, how many positive changes. And they had this actual, like a handoff kind of shift change meeting and all these best practices, continuous improvement. So, it changed, but they really needed, the biggest issue that I found at the core of that was the union. So you had, healthcare union, and then you had management, and it was completely disconnected and effed up. But to the point where, I mean, the overdoses were, you had to get a, what do they call it? Like, incident report. Had to check the ticker and everything after, taking, overdosing on heparin, that sort of thing. So it was a good experience afterwards, but that first experience in like 2014, 2015 was absolutely terrible.
Anyway. So then, like I said, I had the best thing ever the first week I was there. The second week, I wasn't critical anymore, so I got moved to a different floor in the hospital. That's when everything changed, and that's when I started to see. That's where I met that big nurse that was lazy, and the night shift nurses were the worst. You can say I'm going to bash on them or not, but the younger millennial nurses are so freaking out of tune or out of touch with what's going on. All they talk about is themselves with each other. They're on their phones, and they don't give a rat's ass what's going on around them. It's terrible.
You know what? There was a
you're pressing the buzzer. I was in the room right next to the nurse's station, and I can hear it going off, and I can hear them all sitting there laughing, cackling, talking, and I pressed it a bunch of times and nothing. And I finally yelled out loud from my bed
yep.
out the door, and finally somebody came. And
Wow.
I go, what the hell's going on out there? You sound like a bunch of chickens talking, laughing, and I hear the buzzers going off. It wasn't just mine.
Yeah.
And you guys are doing shit.
Yep.
And that's why hospitals now are getting robots, and what the RNs are telling me, like my wife and I got friends that are nurses and stuff like that, and they now have new software that's in the hospital.
Yeah.
And this software collects data and it finds deteriorating patients and stuff like that. It's starting to do some of the jobs that nurses are supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then they can't say later that, oh, what's going on? We're going to lose our jobs. Well, it's your fault right now, today, for being a lazy little shit and talking to your friends about your kids and then hockey and all this stuff. Like that's all you hear. Start doing your job, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. I think today though, what I see is like if you're a substandard at your job, and I don't want to just say nurse, but whatever.
Nope, that just happens to be what
there,
we're
right?
talking about. Yeah,
right. So the nurses still do a lot for the doctors that so that's not changed. But if you're in healthcare, there's probably a review of you somewhere on the internet, right? So there's doctor reviews. There's now, healthcare support workers, will say in general, that get reviewed. So if somebody doesn't like what you're doing, they're going to throw a review up publicly. And not that HR uses that, but I'm sure, you want to stay in a pretty good standing. So there's this little term called continuous improvement, which I think some of the healthcare groups do really well with. And they, it's a bit of a safeguard. So it's all at the core of it should be patient care. And the, beyond that, like improving and kind of working as a team rather than against each other. But your point, though, about the millennial, there was a guy on Facebook or somebody forwarded a post this morning, and it was awesome because the guy was talking about how, me versus you, meaning this guy was in his probably late 40s or early 50s. And he was talking about the reality of how, everything from when he laid it out perfectly. He said by the time I was 16, I had a car. By the time I was 17, I was moved out of the house. I smoked dope. Yeah, I did this, I did that, but I also had a job. I had, it was kind of hilarious to watch, but you're right. Like, I mean, there's this entitlement now. The one thing that he said that really stuck with me was the fact that kids today don't fight for the right for anything. Okay. All they do is they don't like it. They try to erase it or have it, just canceled out of their programming. And it's bullshit, right? Like it really is. It's like, in part, I see it as a snowflake generation. But they're absolutely the guy hit it all. So I gotta find that and post it on the Heiko show.
Yes.
It was hilarious.
Now, what's interesting? We use this word a lot, millennials. I hear it a lot when you're out in public.
Yeah.
Now, a millennial is what age to what age? 20 to 30, right?
I don't know because
20 to 30, 20 to 26. Like a millennial is someone that's kind of born around the year 2000. Is from what I understand. So what do they
call the ones before that? Like, I mean, or earlier than that? Because I don't see a lot of difference between the up and coming 20-year-olds to 30, right?
So, and that's depending where you are. I'll give you the example again in the hospitals. The young, brand new ones that are coming in right now. So they're the ones that are 18 to 20.
Okay.
They seem to be different than the millennials.
Okay.
They're smarter. They care a bit more about what they're doing. So there is a bit of a change. There's just that age group. I'm going to call it 20 to 30. I'm going to call that millennials. And they're the ones that have their head up their ass. They're just out there.
Right.
I'll do a Derek here. I'm just reading up what it says. Derek's not with us tonight.
Yeah, let's hold on that, George. We're not finished the topic. So
I know about millennials.
No. He's going to talk about millennials.
I've got the definition of a millennial here.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool. What is it?
It's denoting people reaching young adulthood in the early 21st century. Most social networking groups are dominated by the millennial generation, denoting relating to a period of 1,000 years, blah, blah, blah. So it's if you turn whatever, adulthood in the early 21st century.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's what it says there. So that's me.
Turning
Derek,
into adulthood.
Yeah, that's my Derek impersonation for this evening.
Perfect. Well done, bud.
But Heiko, I think that change might be, especially in healthcare, because of liability and everything. What may have happened in, let's say, the most recent years, let's say even 2 to 3 years since COVID, right? COVID, all of the clamps that were put down on healthcare and everything else. I think what's maybe come out of that is more of a prescription on how healthcare workers should be measured, right? So the new kids that are coming into the programs are probably told up front, like, you know what, if you get a bad review, you're done, your career is done, because and millennials and maybe slightly before that brought that on themselves. I mean, we review everything and scrutinize everything, so why not in healthcare when you're taking care of people? It's just they're probably getting, before they graduate, they're probably being heavily coached on, look, you have to have your own profile out there. And when I was in business, they used to call it your personal kind of like stock value, right? So image became everything, and
personal wealth or something like that, right?
Something like that. It was more or less you had to not only do your job, but you also had to have your profile, or how people viewed you. It had to be kind of not
personal wealth, personal worth.
Personal worth. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And sorry, George, for cutting you off, but I mean,
no, I was just looking it up for you.
Kathy was asking for your backside, and we weren't finished that conversation, but
okay. I got that. No, I just thought I'd look it up so we knew what we were referring to.
No, I appreciate you doing that.
I wouldn't trample over it.
Some of those topics kind of hit a chord with me because I've been through the healthcare system in detail. And,
and we just had that happen on Saturday. We were out with a group of people. There was a few nurses in our group, and there was one guy in that group. He's our age, guys, and he was such a fucking dick about nurses should be doing their jobs like they did in the war, and he's completely fucking clueless as to what they do, but yet he's mouthing off at them to do their job better. And it's like people like that just need to shut up because you're about as smart as an aspirin, but that's about it, right?
Do you know what? I'm going to get everybody who is in the the teaching world pissed off at me, but like there's been a lot of discussion now around educational, like teachers, principals, and stuff like that. But it's like, if you look at what happened during COVID, it sucked for everybody, and it sucked for the teachers and obviously the students and everything. But the accountability for institutional learning was absolutely horrid. And I had the unpleasant experience of kind of witnessing how teachers were very disengaged. I mean, we have tools, we have, they put kids on, like meetings, team meetings and stuff like that, like video conferencing, kind of like we're doing here and stuff. But nevertheless, it just sounded like there wasn't, and maybe it wasn't their fault because COVID hit and nobody knew what to do or how to respond. But what really sucks now, and this is the point I'm getting to, Heiko, is that graduates are going to start, the ones that were stuck in COVID hell, right?
Right.
So the kids are graduating, let's say, in this year or had just graduated last year. Yeah. I mean, you're getting a whole wave of kids who really didn't experience proper coaching and learning, right?
That's right.
And coaching on a career path, right? So
well, and you have those careers like, let's say, nursing or dentistry, anything like that, where you're in contact with people. COVID screwed all that up, so they could not actually go out and finish all their on-site learning. They just did everything at home or in the classroom. So they're actually behind, and a lot of them are trying to catch up now.
I mean, when you look at it, somebody coming into grade 9 or 10 didn't have a chance, right?
No.
And you can't. I'm sure we can pass blame, but the plan sucked, right? Because what did kids do left to their own devices? Do you think they sat there and intently learned? No, they didn't. And what they lost with that as well is like a lot of different accountabilities, right? Like, and then when they re-engaged them and got them back to school, they didn't wean that in. They just threw it at them and said, "Hey, you're starting school on X date," right? And these kids are used to, doing whatever they do all night, but a lot of freedom during COVID to some degree, but that freedom they turned into whatever they, hobbies or gaming or whatever, which honestly was, in my opinion, is fine because, they had to cope with isolation and a bunch of things as well.
Yes.
Right? They couldn't see their friends and all of that. But that generation now is going to move into the workforce, and and they already are, right? My daughter graduated, first year of COVID. They got robbed of a graduation and everything else, but she was lucky because she kind of got out at around the right time. But unreal.
Things have changed, and a lot of businesses now have changed too, because this COVID thing, I don't want to get into it too deep, but I've read some really awesome articles. Maybe I should share them with you guys. I don't think it's anything we can actually put on the show,
right?
Because it's really deep into what's going on out there and about COVID and what COVID really was and what it did and what it was meant for. But all that aside, it has changed the way people even work. Like, hi Keisha, my daughter, for instance, like a lot of other people, are not going to work every day anymore.
Right.
They're still working from home. They go into the office for a couple days a week, but the rest of the week they don't. And her business is engineering, and the company actually found that the people that work from home are, how do you say it? They do more work at home than they did at work.
Yeah,
they're more productive at home.
Yeah.
And they started looking into that, and they go, "How can that be?" People get up and 10 minutes before work, they get out of bed, make a coffee, they're sitting in their pajamas on the couch, and they're doing their job. But the thing is, there isn't the, "Hey, how's it going?" When everybody comes in, the chat, "What did you do last night?" Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
There's not the cooler talk, the coffee machine talk, all that stuff. That's all gone.
Yeah.
So yes, they are more productive. And that kind of job, the boss can see, or the firm can see how much work they're doing because everything is done online through servers.
Right.
So they can see if they're working or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
And productivity's gone up.
They can count your keystrokes and everything. But, it's a good point, Hike, because I think, what I do outside to pay the rent is I work with a lot of different companies, and some very, very large organizations now don't necessarily believe that in the executive space. So basically what they're saying is, look,
right.
You know what, we've got this massive facility. We want to see people doing the water cooler, being a team again in the building. Well, the way I look at it is I agree 100%. I've worked as a lone wolf for years and years. And I find when I would go to an office, it was a distraction because everybody would do the water cooler chat, which absorbed half a day. But beyond that, I really think there are different kinds of leaders, and there are ones that are A-type drivers that really need to be around and be able to in command of people physically, being able to address them, watch over them, inspect on a day-to-day, because beyond that, their skill set is shit, right? Like, I mean, yeah, they might be able to drive numbers and all of that. I'm not saying that for everybody, but like, I led a pretty big organization and over $1 billion business, and I got to levels where I had thousands of people reporting through that. But I did my best work when I was out of the corporate office, right, and doing either visiting smaller teams or working from home, whatever, right? But
it's funny. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Here's the big problem. It's like the discussion about schools, right? So now what they're doing is they're demanding that employees get back to work full time at the office. So now you've got people that worked out of the city, let's say in Toronto, use Toronto as an example, right? So now they're back into transporting back into the city.
Yes.
And then beyond that, what they're doing is, they're housing these people. And COVID had some advantages because COVID taught a lot of people how to work remotely, how to be disciplined, how to be more productive. And they might have had kids in daycare that, you know what, I'll let the kids stay at home. I'll save some money. I'll bond with the kids. And I can fit work into that schedule, right? Anyway, that's going to be, I'm wondering how human resource teams are going to deal with that, right? Like droves of people coming back, and they're going to be unhappy because you're kind of stepping backwards. I don't believe that the new world after COVID really needs to rely on bricks and mortar. I honestly don't. So anyway.
Well, fans, throw us what you feel. We're on this topic, and I've seen it firsthand. Throw us a message and tell us how you feel about this. The one company, for instance, they just decided to upgrade and build a brand new building just before COVID hit.
Yeah.
Right? So it was built, COVID came in, everybody had to work from home, everybody was doing remote stuff.
Yeah.
And I was in this building. It's a massive, massive building. It's got to be 2 football fields. Yeah. So the shop where the machinery is out back is still running, and all the guys are back there running the machines. Okay. So production is there. Excuse me, but the office, it's 2 floors. Okay. You picture a building as wide as a football field, let's say, or even a bit more. And there's a big hallway, and on one side there's all the way down right to the other end. It's glass offices, and on the other side it's rows and rows and rows and rows of cubicles.
Yep.
On 2 floors.
Yep.
And when I went in to visit one day, there was 6 people in the office on both floors.
Yeah, Hike, I
It's
could
like
probably
it's empty.
Yeah,
It's
I can
empty.
name 4 companies that I've been in their office recently that same thing. They have a shop working, full production.
Yep.
The office area is vacant, right? You know, like
Mm-hmm.
2 and 3 floors, right? So it's
Yep.
designed to house a few hundred people, but
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, these companies are, you know, now they're trying to claw back and try and figure out, well, gee, we made this big office investment, yet we don't like. I'm not sure the motivation to get
Mm-hmm.
people back in the office is very sound. So I think what'll happen is a lot of these, you know, employee groups are going to, you know, push back.
Well, and you said it firsthand, Ringo. You said people can take their kids out of daycare, which
Yeah,
is what, $300 a week plus, and the
yeah.
kids can be at home while you're working. You know,
Well, not only that,
and it's your fuel. Driving an hour back and forth to work, it's your time back and forth to work. It's even for the women getting dressed up and do your makeup and all that shit that you do every morning, which takes probably an hour.
yeah.
So people aren't getting up at 5:30 for an 8 o'clock job. They're getting up at 7:45.
Yeah, and they're
So the
benefiting
time
by
and money people are saving is huge. And it's
well,
tough enough out there as it is. So now if
yeah.
corporations start telling everybody to go back to work, yes, you're right. They're going to have some resistance.
Oh yeah,
Huh?
and there's a wellness check in there as well, right? Like if you have to get up at, you know, 5:30 to make you know, get to work downtown Toronto or wherever you happen to be on time, you know, that's
Yep.
an, you know, hour or 2 less sleep you're going to get, and
Mm-hmm.
so there's a lot of benefits. But the simple fact that you're bonding with your kids, because if you ran a percentage, you probably think you probably wind up, depending on the age class, you know, if you're kind of in that 30 to 40 range,
Mm-hmm.
you've probably got kids in daycare if you're both working.
Yeah.
You know, and then not to mention, let's say the you know, single moms and single dads out there that have to juggle all of it, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be discouraging. I don't think productivity is going to bounce back. This is more of a, well, you know, we built this big building to be able to, and the way I think of it now, it's they built the big buildings to control, right? Keep your rats in the same cage, or your mice on the, you know, the spin wheels. And you know, I don't want to sound like I'm anti-corporate. I'm definitely
No, but the thing is,
not, but
before COVID, that was the mindset. Everybody
yeah,
went to work. They went to that
yeah,
concrete building, and that's where they spent their day.
yeah,
But now they're finding people being more productive at home.
yeah.
So what does the company do now?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, and most people I know that work from home are now working 2 or 3 days a week at the office and the rest at home.
Yeah.
They've kind of divided it up because they don't want to make that harsh switch over, because businesses are going to be in trouble because, you know,
Well,
people are struggling as it is. They're trying to save money any way they can.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right on a lot of fronts. There's a savings. There's you know, mental health benefits. There's the bonding with your family.
That's huge.
You know what? There's less traffic on the road unnecessarily. Probably less accidents, right? As a result. So everything has its, you know, action and reaction. So I guess we'll see what happens with it, but it'll definitely be interesting. I think unions will push back, and you'll look at, you know, Sandra said she's been out of a building since 2020.
Yeah.
So, and then let's see here. Oh, Kathy's anxious for the backside because she wants to win it. With Derek,
before we do it,
I may get it. Okay.
Oh, see, yeah, because
Derek's
not on, right? Because he's pretty good at guessing them.
Yeah, I think Kathy got it. What was it, last week or the week before? I don't know.
No, Heiko got it last week, I think.
I got it last week.
Oh, right, yeah.
But
just
I've been doing pretty good lately.
just going back to the staying at home thing. I mean, I won't bore you too much, but like my daughter-in-law and my son were both at home at the beginning of COVID, right? And they have at the time when it started, there would have been my granddaughters would have been they're 7 and 4 now, so take 2 years off that, right?
Yeah. Right.
A bit more, but they found it difficult having the kids at home. Really, really difficult. So what they had to do was, like, my son Adam would do in the evenings. He would do his work in the evenings when the kids had gone to bed, but he'd mind them kind of in the day. And my daughter-in-law would, Kate, she would be in the, doing the work, on the computer, in the back room or in the basement, wherever it was at the time.
Right.
And Adam would be looking after the kids, kind of thing. They found it really, really hard to have those little kids at home, even though they were saving money. It was like making life really difficult from them, Yeah. So it doesn't really just say, well, they're saving money. It's great, but they found it really, really hard.
Yeah.
Adam's gone back because he works at the university, but like Kate is still at home. I mean, she does go like every now and again, maybe once a month into the office, and then she'll go to Montreal or Quebec or Toronto like once a month.
Right.
But other than that, she's never gone back like more than that, in 2.5 years. Yeah.
Right.
And it does have a social.
Oh, sorry.
And it does have the social impact. You're not socializing, like say, around the water cooler, talking about the Blue Jays last night or whatever.
Right.
Movies. That's got to have an impact down the road. Like
yes, absolutely.
You can't do that. And that for me would be a worry. I felt
some of that though is actually promotes teaming. You gotta. It's a kind of the social get to know somebody, but sometimes that goes out of hand, right?
Yeah. But I mean, for the average kind of person who doesn't go over the top, it's got to be.
I was one of these bastards when people came over in too many times. Like, I'd have the same groups of people pop their head in my office, and I'd say, I'd do the small talk, and I'd be like, okay, so where are you off to right now? Like subtly saying, get back to work. But because some of them were there for the wrong reasons, right? It's just, Sandra was saying that, so many remote job offerings right now that basically retention might be a problem because people might say, well, you know what, I'm just not happy with that. I'm going to move on, right? So
yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
Hey, folks, it's time for George's backside, my favorite part of the show. So sit back and have a look at his backside. And you can catch George out in the clubs, DJing, that's right, flipping those discs, and whatever else he does. But, hey, right now, I just want you to focus on his backside and come up with some answers.
All right, then.
All right,
here we go. Hang on.
Dun, dun, dun. Oh, wow. That's got to be Casey and the Sunshine Band.
Casey and the Sunshine Band. Let me get the glare off there.
Cheers.
Grateful Dead.
I was just looking at your shirt, George, so I had to say something.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I have to grow out of it one of these days. It's not the 70s anymore. I realized that a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
It's not like
all right, so we'll fire a couple questions out there.
All right.
Is this a band?
Yes, it is.
Or is this a UK or North American band?
It's a North American outfit. It's a band.
Leonard. No, it's not Leonard Skinner. Definitely.
Leonard Skinner. Sorry. No, it's not.
I like that guess, though, Rango. That was pretty good.
It's good. It's a good guess.
Well,
yeah.
CCR?
Is it CCR?
And it's funny You said that, and it just came to mind because that was similar.
Well,
You know what I mean?
yeah. See, what's his name there with the guitar, and then he's
Yeah.
on the back,
Yeah,
near the little kid.
John Fogerty.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, on the other side, right there, the blonde guy.
The blonde guy.
Yeah, that's his brother. The two brothers, right?
Yeah.
This guy and that guy, John and Tom Fogerty.
So on Netflix, there's
Willie and the Poor Boys.
I was just last week watching a
documentary about them.
A documentary on CCR.
Yeah, so that's what made me think of it. I'll try them this week.
Well, sorry, folks, we didn't really give you a chance to come up with questions or answers or nothing.
Kathy was saying the Beatles.
We smoked
what
you guys
year
again.
Are they still together?
Yeah.
And then, of course, yay, Ringo.
Yeah, it's not often Ringo gets one.
Yeah,
I didn't even hear Blood Rock Sausage once.
No, but I kind of recognized them. Like, where did I see them recently? And it was
yeah. No, I was watching that
because it was right back in they took it right from the beginning, right? Their first tour. Did you know though that they had, what was it now? They had more record sales ultimately than the Beatles and Rolling Stones.
Yeah, for that period of time, right, from 68 to 70, something like that. Yeah,
like year to date, it would be different for sure. Yeah. But
they were huge.
Back in that time, they were the.
I mean, they had like 3 albums in 1 year, which is incredible.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable.
But they came close to taking out the Beatles and the Stones, which pretty awesome.
Yeah,
pretty awesome.
Yeah. It brings me way back to it was. In my early 20s, we were hanging out in Ajax down at the waterfront. And we used to go, there was a place, I don't know if any of you guys know this, called Rotary Park.
Yeah,
you heard of it?
Yeah, lived in Ajax, yeah.
Yeah. So we used to go on the weekends down to Rotary Park, have a campfire, drink some beers. It was great. So we had a small group, couple cars, and 2 of my buddies showed up on motorcycles, just Hondas. And we're all around the campfire, and I had my little speakers on the roof of my Volkswagen, and I had a great stereo system in my car, so I was cranking the tunes for the campfire. We're playing, I put the CCR CD in.
Yeah.
We're just got the tunes blast away, we're having a good time, and all of a sudden we see this guy come walking over through the dark, right?
Yeah.
And he was big. The blue jean suspenders, the big freaking beard, just massive guy. And he had a beer in his one hand, and he was eating a turkey leg in the other hand.
What'd you do?
And he came over right to our campsite, looked at us all, and his head's doing a little bob like this, and he goes, "Good tunes, boys," right?
Yeah.
So we started chatting with him and stuff like that. He sat with us. We gave him a couple of beers, invited a few of his friends over. Satan's choice. We didn't know, but great freaking guys, great guys. And the music brought them over, CCR.
Yeah, I mean, when I first moved here, I mean, I did some work for an agency in some bars in Scarborough, right? I mean, I'd literally been here, I was almost straight off the boat. I'd been here a few weeks, and I was playing in this bar at Ellesmere and Birchmount there. And a guy came up to me, and he said, "Have you got any CCR?" I went, "CCR? No." He went, "You haven't got any CCR?" I went, "No, I've got no CCR."
"What's wrong with you?"
Like CCR? I said, "No, never heard of them."
Oh my God.
And he went, "Creedence Clearwater Revival." I said, "Oh, okay." Because we never called them that in the UK. We never called them CCR. They were just Creedence or, Creedence Clearwater Revival. We never ever called them CCR. And it oh yeah.
Well,
what can you do?
Since COVID, I got more into the tribute bands, right? Because we lost so many legendary bands, and anyway, there's a band called Green River, and they're a CCR tribute band, and I believe they're still around. I saw something posted not too long ago about a show they were going to do. I remember being a bouncer watching these guys up in Sudbury in a 1,200 seat club. So it was they were amazing. They came out all wearing like military fatigues, and they had camo netting all over the stage, and they had this like almost like a helicopter set in the background. So part of the helicopter, the old
Yep.
and it was pretty impressive, but great band. When you think about some of the songs that they did, wow, like back then, just amazing. Like, I mean, there's the standards that are out there, like Moon Rising and all of that, but Green River itself, I mean, that's a amazing tune.
Yeah.
So,
but even it's funny, you talk to people today about CCR, they're like, huh?
Yep.
And then you put a couple of tunes on, they go, oh yeah, I know that one. Oh yeah, I know that one too.
Right.
Oh yeah, oh great tune, and on and on and on. There's so many, right?
Yeah, I mean, like John Fogerty was the writer, the main guy, and I read his book a couple of years ago, and he did. His band, he had a big fallout with the rest of the band, including his own brother, over money and all this kind of stuff. And I mean, basically, what was happening, from what I can gather, was he was doing everything. He was writing everything, and sometimes he would even record. It was just him, but he was still splitting everything 4 ways, and they weren't like showing up for things, but they still got a quarter of everything, right? And it just got worse and worse and worse.
Well, that's an interesting point, because with MCM, Motor City, that was pretty much the case. Phil would do all of the the melodies and music, rhythm, all that stuff, guitar solos, most of it. But so he'd write all of that, and then we had a contribution, I guess, by the other guys in the band to some extent, but that became difficult. Like, and I wrote 100% of the lyrics. So not only that, I did some guitar arrangements on Misery. I wrote that 100%. And when it comes to like splitting up, like a couple of the guys would say, well, we're kind of the sum of the parts, and we should split it 4 ways, 5 ways, or whatever, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
The rights. And Phil and I talked about it and was like, no, we're not going to do that, because we not only did that, but we did all, like, Phil worked his ass off at recording, because he was an ex-sound engineer and did all of that. So we had the fortunate, we were able to record in his studio. So, but he put a lot of effort. So it definitely, and then on the band promotion stuff and kind of moving everything forward, that was pretty much my gig.
Right.
So, you got to take all that into consideration. What starts off with good intent, and then we had a member change and all of that. So it's, but at the end of the day, it all like times are different, right? Back then, a lot of the bands lived together, right? Because they were touring together, they were doing everything together, and you could be the sum of the parts if it's equal, but a couple of guys are doing all of the work. So, but anyway, on that vein, not to diss my bandmates, they were awesome. I mean, like when we're out performing, it's a lot of fun. But I was talking to Phil recently, who lives out in the bush, so to speak, and so we're going to put the whole project off now until the spring, because he's kind of at a place right now. He's about an hour and a half away, so the logistics of getting us all together are pretty crazy. And then
how's his internet up there? Has he got decent internet or no?
He's got Starlink now.
Oh,
so I think we could actually get him on some night.
I was going to say, I'd love to see Phil again. I'd love to do a couple of shots of 40 Creek with him when he's on the show. You should see if he's interested to come on. He'd be a good person to have on.
Well, I think he'd love to come on. I'll just see if I can coordinate. I got to get back to him about a couple of things, but
Okay,
So
cool.
I was kind of looking forward to putting MCM back together before the Christmas holidays and stuff, kind of prepping
Yep.
for the spring. But
Yep.
it doesn't look like logistically it'll happen. Be nice if the technology on something like these types of things like Teams or StreamYard or whatever, it'd be nice if we could actually rehearse on it, right, and start virtual rehearsing. But it's not really cheap to do that. There's all kinds of latency and delay problems, as we know on our show. So anyhow, so yeah, and then I've been working with this other band on some cover stuff, but it's so hard to get, like, the last 3 or 4 rehearsals were canceled. Life happens. So, I'm kind of getting a little discouraged with all of that, thinking, well, I could go out and just for fun join a band and looking for a singer, but it's just hard to get rehearsals together, right? I'm a believer that, look, if you treat it like anything else, if you have a doctor's appointment, you're going to go to it. You're going to, like we put aside our Monday nights, and sometimes we're not all there.
Sometimes it's difficult to be here,
but
right?
You know what? Yeah. But then the next week you're back at it, right?
Yeah.
So, but we know Monday nights are reserved for the Heiko show, right? So, band practice is the same thing. Rehearsals are the same thing, right?
Yeah. Well, I've got, even as a DJ, I've had a taste of that. I mean, because I've always done my own thing, but for a while in England, I had a partner, Pete Meadows, and even here at one point, back in the early 90s, I joined up with a DJ, right, Bob, and it was difficult, even though there's only 2 of you. It was hard because you couldn't make decisions. Say somebody phoned up and there was a gig, and you thought, well, we can take it on, but who's going to do it? Blah blah blah. I can commit to it, but then you go back to Bob. That's my guy. He's doing something for. You know what I mean? It was. It's very difficult. And that was with just 2 people, right? Another one. So with 4 people or more, a band, it's got to be really tough. So I admire anyone that can actually keep it together. Yeah.
No kidding. Mother Nature hasn't got shit together, because I was just handed 2 fresh raspberries from outside.
Right.
It's not raspberry season. What the hell? Like Mother Nature's really had some good drugs this year.
Weird year. Yeah. I think, George, you're right though about like getting rehearsals together. So you have to also factor in that if you're a young band, okay, you're maybe you're one person, or you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever, but they don't have a lot necessarily going on in terms of, like, it's a big deal, right? Like, it's I'm gonna be I want to do this because I enjoy it, or I want to be a rock star, whatever the case is. But you don't have really a full-time job interfering. You don't have kids interfering, blah blah blah. So it's much easier when you're young. And a lot of younger bands that I see today that are really good bands pretty much live together, right? They're either out touring or they're like Anti-Queens is a great example of a band that they travel the world, right? I think it's awesome. But once you miss that opportunity, being young and flexible in terms of travel and everything, it starts to get harder and harder and harder to do that. Like when I look at a band like Svengali or even Anvil, I mean, they've always made the band a priority, but and kudos to them for keeping it all together and still kind of living the rock star. When I look at bands like that, they really have to work at it, right? Because now you've got influences that are your wives or your husband, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then the family, right? So it's like, I got to take my kids to soccer. I got to do this. I got to do that.
Yeah.
And then
I've been there because
half, your better half, or whatever you want to call it, or maybe not so better half, is nagging at you. It's like,
Yeah,
no, you got to stop being a kid here. And
yeah.
you know,
No, I totally relate to that because, like, I mean, first of all, doing the gigs down the years, I couldn't count how many times I've had somebody come up to me and go, "I used to be a DJ," you know, and I go, well, "Why don't you do it anymore?" And they go, "Well, you know, married, the wife, and all that."
Got a family.
Yeah, family. But I mean, like, I was fortunate. I mean, like, Liz has been fantastic. You know, I mean, all right, you know, I had to work, you know, Thanksgiving, say, or whatever. And she goes, "Yeah, we can have turkey dinner any day of the week." You know what I mean?
yeah,
She was that, you know, Bob will go, "I can't make it that night. It's our anniversary." I said, "Well, we got, you know, this is our," you know, "No, I can't make it."
Right.
You know, and I was very fortunate. I never had that, you know.
No, that's
so
good.
yeah. So
And
I can
you
see
know
how
what,
it happens.
to be a DJ or like especially a musician where, you know, if you have a spouse, they've got to really be understanding that this is not just a hobby. This is who you are.
Absolutely.
A musician will be all, and there's stigmas there, right? It's like, oh yeah, you know, me being a singer in a rock band, it's like the stereotype is that, yeah, it's tour bus or, you know, like women and drugs and booze.
Yes.
Yeah.
Different for you.
It's really, you know what, like it's not what that Motley Crue show or movie. You know, if you're actually doing touring and stuff like that, and you're singing, and yeah, I guess you could fall into that trap. But 9 times out of 10, you got to be mentally fit, physically fit.
It's hard work. It's hard work keeping that up, right? You know.
And then there's the issue about the infidelity on the road and stuff. And yeah, I'm not gonna like lie, that does happen in it, and it's presented to you, the opportunities over and over again, because people want, when you're performing on stage, it doesn't really matter what you look like. It's just if you carry yourself with confidence and you're in a band or fronting a band or whatever, those opportunities are going to be right there. But you got to have some self-discipline to be able to say, you know what, no, I
know. I mean, when I first started out, I did my first ever club residency back in like 1971. I've been doing it a couple of months or even less at the time, and the manager came up to me. I mean, he did it a few times, but he came up to me and he'd say something like, "See that girl there at the end of the bar or at the end of the dance floor? She was asking about you." You know what I mean? I go, "Right, all right, okay, yeah, okay." I said, "But you know what, Dave?" I said, "You know what, Dave? If I was in this club, before I started being in the DJ booth, I could have walked in the club and she wouldn't have been asking about me." You know what I mean? Right. You gotta like think, gotta get it into context, So that's the way I've always sort of done that. I've never really, no, that's not how I met Liz either. So it's never like that. Yeah.
No. Well, so, I mean, it can be. For me, it kind of went beyond asking it. I had crazy people jump up on stage and, throw their clothes off. I remember when I had a band called Crimson
Never
Cane. Oh yeah, no, that we don't have enough time.
Not quite like that, but no, not quite like that.
So we played a club. Lou and I, Lou from MCM, him and I had a band called Crimson Cane, and I was actually playing and singing, and so beyond that, there were just three of us. We were three-piece, but anyhow, we played a bar up in Northern Ontario, and I guess it doubled as a strip club.
Okay.
So there was a shower on stage. It was enclosed and all that, but I don't know how it started, but I might have provoked it. I don't remember, but anyway, women started to take off their clothes, right? And all of a sudden, I'll bet that because it doubled as a strip club, it was likely that maybe some of the dancers were there on their off shift and decided they were going to throw their clothes everywhere, and women dancing all over the place. And I remember a good friend of mine coming out to see us, and Brent, and him and I used to actually tour in a band, but we weren't playing in. He wasn't playing in that band, but he just shook his head because we had other experiences like that while we were on the road.
Yeah.
It's more than like people. I remember playing a small club, and this woman walks up to the stage, and she's wearing jeans and a jean jacket, and I thought she was coming to, do a song request. And off comes the jacket, right? Like a flasher kind of thing. And, Yep. Okay. So anyway, moving on.
Well, actually, before we do move on, I had a similar experience, very similar to that. With it. I'm going back to like late 70s, and we're in Manchester, and I got in touch with this club. Right, I sent some info out, and they said, "Yeah, come and do like Thursday, Friday, Saturday this week, and if it works out well, you can do all the 3 nights." Well, of course, I'm on my own. I mean, but I had a really good friend, Kevin Webb, a real close friend who's a DJ. So I said to Kev, candlelight in Oldham, like 3 nights a week, we can if you're not working, you can do it, blah, blah, blah. We'll work something out between us. And he went, yeah, sure. Right. So anyway, I said, but the first night, let's do the night together, the Thursday, if you can make it. He said, yeah, sure, I'll come on, So I said, and then I'll do the first 45 minutes or hour, whatever, and you do the next one from 10 o'clock through till 2 o'clock.
Right.
Well, in the midst of all, I forgot that Thursday night said they actually had strippers on. Right, there was actual strippers. It was like a roadhouse. It was like there was truck drivers there. It wasn't like a fancy schmancy club. But it was a good place to work, right? So anyway, I'm doing this first set, from 9 till 10, whatever it was, and Kevin was in the dressing room, because it was a stage. He was in the dressing room, and he's got that day's music paper, the Disc and Music Echo. As I left him, he's reading it. Goes, yeah, I'll see you, at 10 o'clock, whatever, or 11 o'clock, whatever it is. And then about half an hour later, then the stripper, the strippers were going to come on at I don't know what time, but then Kevin emerges from the dressing room, and he's still got the magazine, the paper, his music paper, and he's like, George, he said, the woman just walked into that room and took all the clothes off. And he's in shock. Oh, no, by the way, Kev, they have 2 or 3 strippers on a Thursday because a lot of the truck drivers show up. But it was a classic moment. It was like, oh my God.
Nice.
Yeah. So, they're funny when those things happen. But anyway, let's move on. It just reminded me of that. Then. Poor old Kevin.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So I was watching a documentary on Netflix, and it was called it's on there right now. In fact, it's called Seawolf.
Okay.
And so I'm watching this thing, and I guess I didn't pay attention to the trailer on the way in, but these are wolves that live out in this sort of lava rock island, and what they do is they'll actually swim in the sea and to hunt their prey or grab a carcass or whatever, right?
Really?
Yep. Wow. Yeah. So it's pretty interesting because they'll go way beyond what a normal wolf might do as far as going, and they're in the sea, right? So, but anyhow, they were talking about all this volcanic rock, and the habitat is really very sort of tropical, like a rainforest, right? So I'm thinking this has got to, trying to figure out where it was. So it turns out it's Vancouver Island.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've been there.
Remote parts, yeah. So I'm actually going there soon.
Okay.
But it's, I hear that's also one of the prime places to be looking for Bigfoot.
Well, it's cool because we camped on the west side of the island, right on the beach.
Yep.
And we saw the sea lions coming in. They're all over the shore. It was just, oh my God, it's stuff you don't see real, know.
And that's what the sea wolves will look for, right? Like if the tide comes up and it pushes, the waves get crazy and they push sea lions too close to the shore, the sea wolves will get them, right? So it's it was pretty neat.
I wrote that down. I'm going to check it out. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, because the back end, obviously the film work is amazing, right? It's like
Yeah.
like Doug's videos from Pine Tree Line, like very vivid and drone footage. But
One of those schmucks coming back on the show. God, it's
I
been
think
forever.
Doug's open to pretty much any time. I did talk to him recently, so
All right.
he does. He works. He's got like a shift work job, so
Okay, we just have to kind of make it work.
make it work. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
because those guys were fun last time we had them on.
Oh
It's
yeah,
been a while.
good times. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So,
I was going to ask you guys. I don't know if you've heard anything about this. I heard a little bits here and there.
Yep.
It's the next big thing that's supposed to happen, like almost kind of like another war or whatever. But what's been going on is they're saying, I don't know how, I haven't seen all this stuff myself, so I don't know how true it is. I'm just asking. Like Russia was going in to different parts of the ocean and into other countries' territory underwater with submarines, and they were setting charges on pipelines.
Yep.
And they were blowing up pipelines. They even started blowing up their own to make it look like they weren't really doing it.
No, I heard about that. Yeah.
Have you heard about all that stuff?
Something. I heard someone mention that. Yeah.
And now there's some of these articles I've been watching. They've taken it a step further, and they said that there's all the fiber optic cables that are laying at the bottom of the ocean, which are the internet, which connects everybody together. And there actually was a global map where all these cables are, and it's actually pretty cool. And they said that there's a chance that causing our next world war, is they're going to go down and put charges, and they're saying that right now charges are actually on some of these internet cables at the bottom of the sea. And if they blow some of these up, it's going to be it. The internet's going to shut down, and we'll no longer have what we're having right now.
Yeah.
So I just heard about it, and it's like, holy crap, that's serious.
I mean, it's been out there since probably September or beyond that, but it's so it's called the Nord Stream pipeline, and there was an explosion, and right now it's still basically up in the air because it's they're claiming that it's part of almost a war movement between Russia and NATO. And NATO. So, but you're right. I mean, it's definitely open for sabotage. But that came out at the end of September. Now we're almost at the end of October. I haven't heard much more about it. But even like Putin,
these cables run from continent to continent right at the bottom of the sea. Now, if countries go in there with their submarines and set charges on these, and then they can detonate them whenever the hell they want. They said if they do, it will take a long, long time to actually repair that kind of damage, because they have to fix these at the bottom of the sea as well. So it's going to be disastrous as for the internet goes, and how many things work on the internet now, like your credit cards, everything. It's all over the internet, right?
Hi, Brad. Hi, Bradley from New Jersey.
Bradley, our latecomer.
Well, he was doing his own podcast tonight. He had Maestro Fresh West on.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I appreciate he's doing me a favor at the moment, but I won't bore you with it. Yeah.
Well, if he's doing a podcast, I think we should plug it.
Yeah, but it's the same time as ours. But we can plug it. But you can check him out on Facebook, because he always posts them on there as well. But he's had like some interesting guests on there for anyone that's into the music side of stuff. He's had Alan Frew from Glass Tiger. A couple of weeks ago, we had Gord Depp from the Spoons.
Oh, the Spoons, man. I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't really know, because they were kind of before my time.
Kathy knows all about the Spoons.
Yeah. Oh, Kathy, check out the Gordon Depp interview. But the funny thing is, when I was watching it,
she knows Gordon. She knows the whole band.
Yeah, I mean, there's some great tunes, but the way he was talking about all these tunes from the 80s and through the 80s into the 90s, and I thought, wow, all that kind of not alternative, but kind of some of it's alternative.
I like one song they do, I Ran.
Oh,
that's Flock of Seagulls. That's Flock of Seagulls.
Okay,
but Gordon Depp actually plays with Flock of Seagulls now with Mike. What's the guy?
Yeah, they're all.
Yeah, and he does these tours and everything. Yeah, but check him out if you like that period in time in music. Check out Brad's. It's DJ Staples, 93. Yeah,
wow,
find him on there. Yeah.
So Todd was asking where he was asking where Derek was.
Oh yeah,
and I just want to let Todd know that Derek was getting a little jealous of George doing his backside, so Derek thought he was going to do the front side.
Uh-oh.
So we turned him off tonight because he was just getting a little bit out of hand.
Right.
Yeah. Sandra, I love the forks, so forky spoons.
Yeah.
Spoons. Yeah. No, that was an education to me because, like I say, I didn't know much about them because they were kind of early 80s into mid 80s.
The Spoons used to store their shit under the music hall stage, actually.
Yeah.
Wow. And I love there's a video. What's the song called? Is it Romantic Traffic? And it's, I mean, it's done on the Toronto subway. You know what I mean? In the early 80s. It's so simple, yet it's such a cool video. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah. So hi, Brad.
So
what were you saying, Ringo?
I just to finish off on that war thing. I think what you got to watch for is like the media, right?
Yeah.
The media sucks, actually, because
it does.
They try and build a story or fake news bullshit. Because, I mean, if you do the research on it, Putin actually thinks, the West is actually, creating that problem with, bombing undersea communication lines and all of that. So, but Russia's kind of, getting blamed. But I don't know what the story is. To me, it's vague. There was an explosion. They don't know who did it. Now the news has got it pumped up that if it's sabotage, then there's hell to pay and all of that. But again, it's like the news is vicious, right? Like if they don't have a story, they make one up because they're all lying bastards.
Well, actually, I remember because Liz follows the news. She's really into. She's like a news head, And I remember, and she follows the Daily Mail website. And I can't remember how long ago it was. It was about about a year and a half, a bit more maybe. And there it is. There's this map saying that there was all these Russian nuclear subs, right, surrounding the UK. And then you never heard anything more about it.
It's because bullshit, right?
Bullshit.
And it's just some, and they'll retract, and they don't even do that anymore. They just
don't have to do that.
No. They throw it out there, and this is what I've said time and time again. Even we had Adrian on the show a couple of times, and we had our flat Earth guy. There's so much information out there on the internet that we're bombarded with every day. And what you need to do yourself, not listen to the guy left or right ear or whatever, for yourself, is you need to look into what you're interested in. If you hear something and go, oh my God, like we're talking about tonight, you can't. You really have to look into it. And one thing that is actually quite shocking, which I do sometimes, is if I'm interested in something that's happening in the world and I hear it here in North America, and I go, oh, wow. Now what you do is you go to the European news channels and look up
check.
the same topic.
Yeah.
And you go, holy shit, it's black and white. It's apples and orange. It's not even close.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're going, which one is true? Right? You know, and if you go to Europe or South America or somewhere else and look at their news and you get the same thing that we're getting here, then you go, okay. I kind of
maybe there's something to it.
I'll go with it. You know what I mean?
Well, actually, I probably told you before, but I was in Eastern Europe twice in the 70s, 76, 78, right? For various reasons. But they had one, I think it was just one TV channel in Poland in East Germany. One.
Yeah.
Right, government run. And at the time, the World Cup was on. I remember that soccer, so you got that. But I remember watching at one point this thing. It was like a documentary. And it was about this young couple. I mean, this sounds so ridiculous today, you know.
Yeah.
But it was about this young couple. I think they had one young child or maybe two. And they emigrated from Berlin to Australia, right? First of all, like, that would never happen, right? And the basic commentary on it, as I figured out, was, you know, here's a family who went to Australia looking for the good life. And then there's like pictures of like these tramps on the, you know, like hobos lining the streets of Sydney with burning little fires. And they've got like an old, you know, baked beans can making some food. He said, and this is the life they left Berlin for to go to. And I'm like, holy crap. And it just like, that was the worst bit of propaganda that I can ever remember. But I thought, how much more is that? Of that is done all the time to some degree, right? You can show a picture, go, look at this. Well, you don't know where that's from.
I can't remember and I don't want to assume too much, but do you remember War of the Worlds?
Yes.
When it came out on radio, people caught only parts of it, and they didn't know it was a screenwritten, like, or
Orson Welles was doing the thing.
They thought it was real, right? And I can't remember if it was War of the Worlds or some other program that came out that you know, people were in a panic because they thought it was real.
That was it. War of the World.
Well, yeah, but one of them, and you know, I want to try and get my facts straight, but one of them actually, like, people were so distraught over it, there were, you know, they tried, you know, I guess committing suicide, and people actually done that and died as a result. So that's the power of media, right?
Well, it was actually done. I think that the one, if it's the same one you're thinking of, it has to be widespread panic and all that. It was Orson Welles, but it was done in the style of a news report.
Yes.
That's the way they did it. That's
well, and it was extra long. It had
okay,
and those are, you know, and we're back for coverage on the whatever. So and it freaked people because back then you didn't have the internet. You had no cell phone.
And you know what?
Telephone was a party line, right?
Yeah. And what's really cool, I was just in a store last Friday, way up in the middle of nowhere, and it's like a trinket store. They have all kinds of stuff there. And if you go in the very, very back, you'll hear what sounds like news reports and all this kind of stuff. And what they do is they have all the CDs back there of all this stuff that used to be on radio. It actually was recorded and put on disc, so you can get the Orson Welles and, you know, the UFO stuff and the fire and it's all there. And I'm listening to it while I'm in the store. I go, oh my God, this is so cool.
Well,
because they never had a visual screen. They just had radio. So when they did it like that, it was like a news report. It was just, people got sucked in, right?
Yeah. That's the only brainwashing tool that was out there was radio, right?
And now people get sucked in with their cell phones. Everything that's on their cell phone is true, right? Isn't it?
Now you can't fact check or back check. And again, I'm mentioning this again, but on Netflix, and I'm not sure if it's still on it, but the program called Social Dilemma. And Social Dilemma was about how all of the, Google, Facebook, all of these
Yeah.
influencers are they they track and listen to what we do so that they can learn what interests us, and they put it in front of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
So your belief, Heiko, could be different from my belief because
Yeah.
we might have different interests. But at the end of the day, these former execs that you talk to will tell you that, like, they were all asked the same question at the end of the program, which I thought was brilliant. It's like,
Yeah.
what's the end game? Where do you see it? And they all said civil war.
Mm-hmm.
So, not cool, right? I mean,
No. And people are different too. Like at night when I go to bed,
mhm.
my cell phone gets turned off. I
Yeah.
mean, off.
Yeah.
I'm not using it when I'm sleeping. Why should it be on? People leave their cell phones on all the time. There's people like me that understand what's happening with a cell phone. There's other people like the millennials that, a cell phone is a tool. They can, instead of getting money out of their pocket, they just kind of go ding with their phone on the, right?
Yeah.
And it's convenient, it's easy, and repercussions, they don't give a shit. They just don't care. This is good for me, right? I can go to Starbucks and wave my phone in the air and I get my coffee, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And the thing is that, like Ringo just said, they're listening. They're out there. And I've said this a couple times on our show, and if you seriously don't believe that they're listening, I think most people should understand that, but still some no. Take your cell phone, right?
Yep.
Take it and put it in front of the TV, like right in front of it, like on your stand or on the floor, a little table, and put your TV on a Spanish channel or French channel or a totally different language that you don't even know. Okay? And go to bed and leave your cell phone with your TV, leave your TV on. And I guarantee you the next day you are going to start getting messages on your phone in those languages.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because your phone is listening to everything. Just like people that have that stupid Siri or whatever the hell it is. Siri, Alexa, Alexa, put the radio on. Alexa, do this. Alexa, do that. Are you kidding me? I've seen these shows about this stuff, and it is a tool that they have. Right, Ringo? It's a tool that they have where they can listen in. And if I was sitting with a group of my buddies and we're talking about these words all together, building a bomb to blow up, blah, 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 it's a trigger because they're always looking for certain words. And now they're tuning into my phone because they picked up all those words they want. Yeah. And now they're recording, they're listening to what we're talking about. And my wife and I, we chatted one night about, this was at the beginning of COVID, when they were talking about putting that software out on everybody's cell phone, the COVID software.
Yep.
To let you detect if anybody near you has COVID.
Wow.
You remember that?
Yep. Yeah.
We were talking about that, and within about half an hour, we've both got emails on our phones about that from the Ontario government.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah.
You have to understand that is fact. That's out there. It's true. Yep. It's science. It's call it whatever hell you want to call it.
It's just like the alert, the abduction alerts and stuff like that comes across like they've gone to the cell companies and basically said, hey, we're gonna intervene, chop into your cell phones and put a message out. Mm-hmm. And like I get the I get the intent of it all, but like we have the right to, we should be asked permission to do it, but at the end of the day, they're these amber alerts, right? So they get put out there. Yeah. And I'd like to know the success rate, and that's probably something to look at sometime. although it is useful, like to put something like that out. However, and I don't disagree with it. I think it's a brilliant way to do it. But what I do disagree with is politicians lobbying and sending text messages, especially from the federal government, to my cell phone without asking for my permission to do that. And it's like, you fuckers pulled this off of a database, somewhere, because they they got our numbers, and made the executive decision, which goes up to our friend with the nice hair, to go out and actually, liberals to start polling and using our tax dollars and to spam. So you know what? You want to do something like that? Go to the fucking duck cleaners in India and ask them to fucking get your messages out, right? Like I think it's just absolutely contradicts why we have anti-spam here in Canada. And to be able to just take a list of Canadian cell phone owners and have a direct line to us. I mean, it's disgusting. But,
I get them sometimes too, Ringo. I'll get the text from, "Hi, I'm so-and-so from the Liberal Party, blah, blah, blah. Can we count on your vote?" And the messages are sent back. They're not just "fuck you." They're,
yeah.
I tell them what it is. I said, "This is illegal what you're doing, blah, blah, blah." So absolutely no chance you're going to get my vote.
You're violating Canadian anti-spam rules, which the federal government developed, and it's like, and it's sad because I've got a lot of friends who either from India or they've got families there and everything, and some very big companies in Canada, to avoid anti-spam laws in Canada, would funnel that first point of contact for a Canadian through an Indian company, right? And which they would they'd mask their number. So I get calls all the time on different things, because I have an internet presence and website and all that stuff. So I get developers and everything, and some of them, you gotta. The guidance I was given is that there's probably like a high percentage of fraud in those calls, but some of them are legit. Like I've used organizations out of India to do pre-engineering on things, and very very professional, proficient virtual teams, right? So but what creates a just a bad image is the fact that there's all this spamming going on, and they mask your number and all of that, and now to see the Canadian government, the politicians actually doing that and utilizing internally in Canada, just grabbing our numbers at will. I mean,
well, it's not even they're grabbing your numbers. Let's say there's all your utilities out there. Like, you have your Bell, you have your Rogers, you have your Facebook, you have all these social media and communication companies that are out there that have your information, being your name and your phone number, or your name and your email address, or that, right? So what's happening here is the piece of shit government is giving money to those companies to get the data, to get those lists, so they can send you a fucking text.
Yeah, you know what?
That's what's illegal, and that's what's wrong, and it's our government that's freaking doing it.
Yeah, you might be right about that, because look at when it comes to weapons and arming different countries, right? It's only when these let's say battles or small geographical wars break out that we find that we've been funding the wrong side, right? And we don't, as Canadians, we don't get advised of that. I mean, and I understand some of the covert operation is what it needs to be, but then we go out and we're like, oh well, you know what? Well, casting blame, and like, I don't want to get into the whole Russia-Ukraine thing, but there's a
Right.
backstory there that's really disturbing. And there's a lot of people who've had to die and stuff like that as a result. But I mean, if you peel the onion back, a lot of these nations that are sort of standing back and saying, "Oh well, this is wrong," but they've helped fund a lot of this, and pretty simple. War is money, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Follow the money.
And this is why people, please do your own research.
Yeah.
You don't have to believe what we're saying or what the news is saying or whatever. Do your own research. You'll become smarter, and you'll understand what's happening.
Educate yourself. Like,
absolutely,
it's that old term, ignorance is bliss, right?
Yes.
And then, you get the ones that I don't know. Anyway, we should just move on. It's a whole other.
Well, before we, it's getting late. I know it's getting late. I know, but before we go, of course, you touched on it. You reminded me there that a week today it's municipal elections, right? It's elections.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And over the weekend, I was reading some stuff about election apathy. It is at its highest at the moment. It's higher than it's ever been. And by the sounds of it, it's going to go higher. But I was stunned to see some of the actual numbers of that, right? That the last provincial election, that like compared to, I can't remember what the numbers were in 2018, but it was like 37.6%. Showed up for the provincial election, right? Yeah. And it's like, you think, well, that means that's 63% that didn't vote for the party that's, you know what I mean? So it's just crazy. And I don't know what it's going to be like next time. But with these municipal elections, looking at some of the numbers for like Ajax, Whitby, Oshawa from 2018, and Oshawa was 21% turnout.
Yeah.
21%.
And there again, I'm talking out of my ass now or my mouth, but
well, I do.
They should make it your civic duty, or the law that you must vote if you're a legal voting age.
Yeah.
And if you don't, they can fine people or do something.
Well, this is,
because this is the whole bullshit. You have 25-30% of the population voting. What does that do? Right?
I'd like to know the age category as well, because like when we were talking earlier about kids graduating and moving through the system, do you honestly think the kids that don't give a shit about cleaning, whatever, like, or lack of respect, entitlement and all of that, do you think they're going to go out and vote?
Well, Mr. Piece of Shit Trudeau went out and made drugs legal, marijuana legal. So what he did is he did capture that younger generation of people. The college and university students went, oh my God, it's going to be legal to smoke pot. How fucking wonderful. Let's vote for this clown, right? So he's got good people working for him because they set all this shit up and they know who to go after to get the votes. It's the young people. It's the immigrants. It's the native Indians. It's every time they focus on something and they get their votes. Yet you talk to people and go, I didn't vote for them. Well, that's right. They got in somehow.
Yeah. Or it's like they're all the same is another one, right? There's an excuse. Nothing's going to change. They're all the same.
No, and they're not. And
no, they're not.
If 100% of the people, let's say, voted, whatever the hell they voted for, and if they just went, that guy wears a purple shirt, I like it, I'll vote for him. But at least you would have numbers from the population, for whatever party they're interested in.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, doesn't matter, but you would have an accurate vote.
No, I agree, Hike, but I think it's a farce right now because, like, yesterday I saw this woman stuffing my mailbox with political crap, which honestly I took. It's so close. Like, I mean, if you're going to lobby change and you're going to do this and that, you should have your platform out there. You shouldn't be stuffing mailboxes. I think that's if each campaign member is paying for that out of their pocket, great. But, they probably campaign for money for that, or it's taxpayer money, whatever. I think first of all, let's just take it back to sustainability, which I think every politician should be all about. Well, what the fuck are you doing killing trees anyways? Just to stuff your colorful, toxic garbage in my mailbox, right? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Well, and we have that here. There's one of the people that are canvassing to be the next person in the Beaverton area. All their signs are huge and they're everywhere. And I said, that's the person not to vote for right there. Yep. Look at the money they're pissing away on signs, right? And this is all going to be absorbed if they get in. It's all going to get sucked in from our...
Which are either wooden signs made from trees, which they're killing trees for.
Yep.
So it's not ecological friendly. And then they've got ones that are made out of plastics, right? And are they recycled? Those are the things that I think are important. They should be grassroots. With every politician, you should be at least respecting the planet. I'm not a tree hugger. I don't want to give you that impression, but it's like you respect it because our resources are getting thinner and thinner. But to me, that's just all ego and empire shit, right? That's just put biggest, fattest sign on the lawn. And anyway, and like I said, the campaign, by the time they stuff something in my mailbox, I should be pretty much settled on who I'm voting for, right? Because they've got enough of a presence, and use the online tools. Have your social gatherings on that, right? But anyway,
it's like the guy we had him on our show a while ago, Ryan Williams.
Oh, him, yeah.
He's right. He's up in this area.
Yeah.
Is he going to run?
Yeah, he is running.
Yeah, he's running. Yeah.
Good.
He has signs. They're small.
Yeah.
And they're in good areas, on corners, special locations, stores, wherever. Not like these other schmucks that got these big, massive signs all over frickin' town. You know what I mean? So I would vote for Ryan before I vote for the other name is Judd, because the money they're pissing out to get their name out there. And in the country, I don't know if you get this, Ringo, we actually have the actual physical people that are running for a position, driving up and knocking on our door because we live in the country, right?
Right.
So they're spending
any kind of media that can,
Yeah.
So again, carbon tax, like not carbon tax, but carbon footprint, right? You're blowing a lot of fuel to get.
This guy's driving around all day long, driving up on people's driveway.
Yeah, it's old school. It's bullshit.
Yeah. And I told him right to his face. He went to hand me his card. I said, "Don't give that to me." I said, "Get off my property." I said, "If you want me to look at your flyer, put it in my mailbox. Don't drive up in my yard and knock on my door. What the hell's wrong with you?"
Yeah.
Right? Seriously.
So are we staying on till the half hour? Or are we gonna?
Yeah. Well, if you guys are still up for it, I got tons of beer here, so I'm good to go for another couple hours.
I'm gonna drop for a minute. I'll be back.
All right.
Okay. All right. So Brad can't vote because he's Canadian down in New Jersey.
Oh, really?
Well, that makes it easy then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
I know, and I hate getting into politics because
me too. But I'm just shocked how bad that is. The numbers.
You know what? I call it a crooked business. They should all go to jail. Because no, but you know what? So many things the politicians, the government people do. We would go to jail if we did it. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
It's against the law, but they do it every day.
Exactly.
Mind-boggling. Like, holy shit.
Well, they're addicted. That's why people want to stay in positions of power, right? Because it's addictive, you know.
Well, and I'm really sad about it. I was never really into elections or political anything. But I remember when I was younger, you would see them all putting their little bits out there when the elections were coming up, right? To be canvassing and whatnot.
Yeah.
And each individual would tell the people what they were going to do for the population, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make sure that this gets fixed. Yeah. And they would canvass about all the things that they were going to do for us.
Yes.
What do they do now? Nobody, none of the parties, zero, tell us what they're going to do. All they do is bitch about the other parties.
Yeah. Well, it's
and
like,
I go, that's like a bunch of kids in a freaking sandbox. Come on. And you people want to run this country?
Exactly. Well, the funny thing was, like, when I became old enough to vote at 18,
right? Yeah,
which was 1970, right?
Holy shit, that long ago?
Yeah. And I remember I had not followed politics or anything like that. I didn't have a clue, because in England there's a three-party system, or there was then. It was like Labour, Conservative, and Liberal. Liberals were kind of always would tag on to whichever one, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I remember like thinking, well, I've got the vote now, and I think I've got a vote. And I voted Conservative, and the only reason I voted Conservative, not because I particularly looked at any of the what they call, what they stand on and all that, was because at the time in England we still had the pirate radio stations, that went around the coast. There was like about 3 or 4 of them, maybe a couple more, that broadcast from outside the whatever they call the limits, where they could, so they could broadcast from there, but it was illegal.
Right.
Because they were outside of, And I remember thinking that one of the things the Conservative Party ran on at the time was they would make those pirate radio stations legal. That's why the first time I ever voted was for that reason, purely because I wanted to be a DJ, right? I was like 18. That's where I wanted to go. But it would be legal because the BBC was shutting them all down and arresting them and things like this. So they brought in the Marine Broadcasting Act and all that. But I thought, I'll vote. Yeah, that'd be cool if the pirate state is illegal. Yeah, I want to go do that. I don't think it was a very sound decision. I don't think it was based on much research.
It's sad.
But at least I got out there and did it. Yeah.
And I feel bad for the Americans because there's only 2 parties.
Yeah. Yeah, it just goes back.
What kind of system is that? It's this or that, know?
Yeah. And then that one gets in, changes all that they did, then they come back in after 2 terms or 1 term, and then they'll change all that back again. And, 2 years, nothing's been done, right? And then it's election fever again.
It's a joke, Trump was in. A lot of people like him. A lot of people don't like him. Personally, I thought he was one of the best things that ever happened to the United States because he was not a politician. He was a businessman. He had a whole different way of thinking. He wanted the United States to do well again. He kept saying, bring back the old United States, make it back the way it was, put people back to work, all that stuff, right? Because he's a businessman. And that just stepped on too many toes. And now you have this puppet there that got voted in, that got in somehow. And the only reason he is there because they needed to get Trump out because he was stepping on people's toes. Well, it doesn't matter how good they are for the country or how great they are for their people. It's what big business wants, right? It's what they want.
But I think he's the only president to be elected that didn't actually, was never in the army like Eisenhower, or actually in politics. But I think But I think the more, I don't know, it's a bit shady. I mean, I wouldn't get into it, but, it's a bit shady, the whole deal, what he was doing, I think. Very questionable. Yeah, I think there's a few different levels to it all.
And that's why we don't get into politics, folks, because it sucks.
Because it does, yeah.
Right?
It does, yeah. Absolutely. And you just go around in circles anyway. You start off, and you can spend 2 hours talking about something and you get nowhere. Absolutely nowhere.
Well, it's politics, religion. Those are the big topics, right?
Religion's the same. You can spend 2 hours talking about it. And
there is no right answer, wrong answer. It's all opinions. Yeah. And people all argue because they think what they believe or their opinion is the right one.
Well, of course, yeah.
But again, they're all opinions. It's you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'll tell you one thing. It was I had a good time on Saturday. We had a fundraiser for the local hockey teams down in Oshawa. So what they do is they have a yearly Yuck Yucks night. You have dinner and some comedians come in. And they did really good this year. Really, really good. I don't know. Have you ever heard of Fiona O'Brien? She's Irish.
My bad.
She's all over Twitter and all that stuff. And she's a mom, with teenage kids. And that's what a lot of her comedy is all about, the kids and all that kind of stuff, raising kids and love life and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Fabulous. But the guy I loved, he's actually from, you ever seen the show Letterkenny?
Yeah.
No,
yeah? Do you know who Jeff McHenry is? There's one episode in particular, he's a janitor. He's cleaning up a bathroom. When Wayne and stuff, they come in just to go for a pee and to wash their hands. He's in there, he's got the yellow gloves on, and he's cleaning up stuff, and he says, I don't understand why people are having a shit outside on the floor of the toilet. He calls it toilet. And he goes, why are people pissing on the floor beside the urinus? And he calls it the urinus and the toilet. And he keeps repeating himself. It's a whole long shtick they do. But that guy is the comedian that we saw. And I'm telling you, I couldn't stop laughing. It was wonderful. So I talked to them all after the show was over and told them what we do. And we might have them in the future. We might have some of them come on.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But I love my comedy. I love to laugh.
It's a tough gig, yeah.
It is. And some comedians talk about how tough that gig is,
Well,
they have a brother who's a lawyer or someone else doing this, and they're going bar to bar telling jokes, right?
That's exactly what Darren Frost said to us, right? He said, would you let, your whatever mechanic work do surgery on you? But he does have a point, because I mentioned to, on that show that we had with him, I said, I always wanted to try my hand at stand-up, right? And I sort of tried it one time, but so Yuck Yucks used to do their gigs in Oshawa at down in the basement of this pub.
Yep.
Yeah. What was it?
Yeah, they have a place downtown Oshawa. There are Yuck Yucks.
Yeah, drumsticks and flats or flats. Yeah. Anyway, George left us. Okay, so
he'll be back.
Drums and flats. So downstairs of drums and flats, Yuck Yucks used to set up their monthly. So I came in with some friends, and because after Yuck Yucks was done, which was I think around 8:00 or 8:30, they would do karaoke, right?
Okay.
So we went in, and a bunch of us went in, and they were still set up for Yuck Yucks. So they had the chairs and they had the tables and all that, and they had the comedian stage still set up. So they said, oh, the DJ for karaoke is going to be a bit late. So we're sitting there having drinks and everything. So I thought, you know what? I got to go and try this. So I went up onto the comic stage.
Did you really?
And grabbed the mic. Yeah. And
Nice.
I forget what the heck I was doing, but like there were some people in there waiting for karaoke and they're like, no, go ahead and do it. Right. We won't laugh or we will laugh. You know, it was kind of, anyway, so I forget what I was doing up there, but it came off pretty good. So, but I mean, being a musician, it's in our DNA to perform, but I don't know. I feel like the dead silence of an audience might, like, you got to be very sharp, very spontaneous with your wit, but
yeah,
I don't know.
You got to be able to read the audience as well.
You got to read them, like, Robin Williams was the master at that, obviously. Like, and there's so many comedians out there that are great with that. But yeah, I don't know. I'd be one of these. A lot of comedians will plan out their act, right? I think the way I would do it is have maybe a couple of cue cards just so I don't lose my train of thought. But I would probably be more like a Drew Carey, where you play off the crowd, right?
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
I don't want to compare myself to great comics like that because I've never stepped on a stage to do it fully. But when I look at like Robin Williams, he would just rhyme on, like he didn't have a script, right?
No,
he's just reading everybody in the room. So,
and you know what? It's so funny you bring him up. I think Robin Williams got the short end of the stick because he was a great comedian, and on top, he was an incredible actor. He never got awards. He never got fuck all. But I'm telling you, the talent that guy had, you go back to movies like Patch Adams.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And there's a movie a lot of people have not heard of, but if you like Robin Williams, or if you're just interested, there's a film he did. It's called Where Dreams Will Come.
Yep.
Oh, what an amazing film that was. But nobody knows about it. And it's sad, right? But
then there was Photoshop or whatever it was.
Exactly. Oh, man.
Yeah. That was yeah, it was.
Must have been fun, doing a little bit of comedy stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I would enjoy it. I like, obviously comics, and I don't want to downplay their, like, it's like Darren was saying, it's a skill and almost an art that you develop over time, right? So
yeah,
I'm sure he's been heckled off the stage many times, but the good comedians have a fallback, right? And I was just watching Ron from oh gosh, you might be a redneck.
Ron White.
Ron White. Yeah,
he's great.
Vegas.
I've seen him on his own a couple of times. My God.
I can't even repeat he's very vulgar and I love it, but it's he starts off with something at the beginning of his act, and I've seen him do this many times. And I won't get into it. It's pretty crass, but he starts off with that, and then through his entire act, he'll come back to that same point he made at the beginning, and then he usually ends the show with it. But but with Darren, it was and he's probably changed his performance by now, but he had that fallback who was anybody sitting close enough to the stage that he could name his fucky for the night.
Fucky. Yeah. That has been Darren's thing for a lot of his career. and
But
it's
when
a way
you,
of interacting with the audience. But I talked to him about it too, and he said you have to choose that person. You can't just call somebody fucky. You have to. What he does, the last show, we just saw him a little while back when he was in Oshawa at Yuck Yucks there, and you'll see him. He works all the people that are close to the stage, and he
yep,
gets responses from them, and so, and he picks his person strategically
mhm,
out of the crowd that he can use to do that.
yep,
And for some people, it's tough. And even the last show I was at with him, you could see the guys laughing and laughing and laughing. And then there's some spots he's just like, he's starting to look like he's getting picked on, that kind of shit.
yeah,
But what Darren did at the end of the show, in front of everybody, he thanked him. He said, "Thanks for being a part of the show," and he gave him a whole bunch of shit, right? Like
yeah,
CDs and all that kind of stuff. And
yep,
and the guy was a great sport about it, right?
yeah.
But it's
Well,
a
yeah,
part of a
like
show.
Darren had a bottle thrown at him one time, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
on YouTube. And
Yep.
that's I remember when we were at reality radio, and Gary used to say, well, that humor, or the humor we do, is satire and stuff like that. So you can almost get away with a few things, I suppose. But yeah, Darren, to have somebody physically try and harm a comedian, it's like, well, what
Mhm.
do you pay? Like, what are you paying to come and see, right? Like, but I had a friend back in, we used to go to a university pub once in a while, and he actually, there was a comedian there, and my buddy was kind of more of a, he'd wear the suspend. He was almost like a skinhead, I guess, but not hardcore. It was more of a fashion statement.
Right.
So we're all at this bar, and
Yeah.
somebody said something to the heckled at the comedian, and it was just some young guy, and so he goes, well, what are you talking about? What are you looking at? And then he looks at my buddy's girlfriend, and he said, well, obviously not much. I'd rather ride the bus than that biatch. And
Wow.
he jumped him on stage, and there was a big bar fight and
Yeah.
university pub. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like,
But see,
okay, so while we're on the topic, look at the Will Smith thing, right?
yeah. And I was just going to say
And
something there
Chris Rock,
too.
like, come on.
Mhm. 2019, we're at the same place we were just at on Saturday at the German Club in Oshawa, and watching a comedy show. And one of the comedians that was there, he was great. He was funny as hell. He got onto a topic that somebody in the audience didn't like.
Yep.
And the person in the audience actually yelled out loud to him, like, okay, that's enough now,
No.
And the comedian handled it so well. It was class. It was absolute class.
Okay.
And he told him, he says, look, he says, I'm up here telling jokes. There's a couple hundred people in the room. I am not here to offend anybody. I'm here to make everybody laugh.
Yeah.
And you know what? You, sir, should not be barking out and taking this personally, because this is a comedy club. And if you can't take humor, you shouldn't be here. Just the way he handled it was just beautiful.
Oh,
right?
yeah. And then you've got the crowd support around that, probably, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So the guy looked like an absolute idiot. But again, don't go to a comedy club if you can't handle it. Don't watch horror movies if you don't want to get scared.
Yeah,
don't
sit in the
like
front row if you
like
don't want to
it's
get
it's
heckled.
here. You can't go and do it and bitch after and say, "Oh, I was offended." Fuck off. You know what was going to happen there, right?
Yeah, like don't go to an orgy expecting
Yeah, to collect postage stamps, like you know what I mean. It was like,
yeah.
but hey, that's another whole thing we can get into, which we're not going to.
So we're over the half hour, so we should wrap her up.
Are we? All right.
Yep. I have a meeting.
I'm good. I'm good with that. Whoa.
I'll name that tuning one.
Blood rock sausage.
Wow. So
All right.
I'll work on getting some of those people on our show. I don't know who's out there. The comments have been short and sweet lately, so I don't know if anyone's still listening.
Yeah, we got a couple of people out there for sure.
All right. Sounds great. Kathy, I got to congratulate you. You were number one today. It doesn't happen very often. Normally, the other ladies are just right there, right on the money. So good for you. So I want to thank Kathy, Sandra, James, Danny, Junior, Keisha, Bradley, and Todd for being a part of our show tonight.
Thank you.
And you know what? If you guys enjoyed yourselves, come right back here again next Monday night at 9:30 and listen to and watch the Heikadelic Show. Thanks, boys. And thank you, everybody else.
So yeah,
We'll see
those Halloween haunt guys are really something, aren't they? I like the video, and they're kind of scary. But I hope to see them again, maybe live next time. But I am going to check out their socials and look them up on Facebook for sure. And I'm going to like them because I like them. See you next time. Well, that's another wrap for the Heikadelic Show, folks, so time to get dirty. And don't forget, listen in next week on Monday night and every Monday after that for the Heikadelic Show at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. If you'd like more information on the Heikadelic Show, please find us at www.theheikedelicshow.com or .ca. We'll see you all next week on the Heikadelic Show. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor for the Heikadelic Show, it's easy. Just send us an email at info@theheikedelicshow.com. Meanwhile, you can browse our website at www.theheikedelicshow.com or .ca. Click on our sponsor tab and find out more information on sponsorships. Thanks for joining the Heikadelic Show, fans.